Hello, everybody. Oh, I got to change this layout. There we go. That's much better. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special Sunday night edition of Miami Total Football Radio, the number one bilingual Inter Miami focused podcast out there. I guess we're a video podcast now, so I should probably adjust that. Joining me here, I'm Franco Panizo, of course, one of the usual co-hosts, but joining me here for the first time in a little bit, wearing a Miami Heat long sleeve. I don't know if it's a sweater. I think it's just a long sleeve.
It's just a long sleeve, yeah.
Just a long sleeve. Well, it's none other than Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco. Jose, my dear friend, how are you today? We're in the midst of the immediate aftermath of Inter Miami's huge victory over FC Cincinnati. 4-0 win for Javier Mascherano's men. A masterclass performance.
Very impressive.
To get into. Pero how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm a little bit, I don't know if shocked is the right word, but
pleasantly surprised.
This is something that I did not expect. It was, from all sorts of perspectives, lineup, result, Cincy not playing at a high level, so many things. But I'm happy that we're here on a Sunday, because then I'm sure people are watching Philly and New York City, so you can still keep it very into Miami, and yet make sure you know exactly what's going on. We're going to keep you updated as it stands right now. 48th minute, it's New York City. New York City, Franco Panizo. That means if that result holds, we'll be at Chase next weekend.
What's the score right now? Is it still 1-0? Last time
1-0. 1-0.
Goal from Maxi Morales, another Argentine.
Of all people, Maxi.
The Argentines are reigning supreme today.
Right.
But thank you guys for joining us on short notice. I know it's active in the comment section already. And obviously this was done super short notice. Probably should have decided this earlier, but again, our schedules are pretty hectic, and I'm a family man now. I'm a dad now, papa.
Right.
So that also comes into play. But once the schedule's opened up, like I said, win or lose, elimination or advancement, we're doing this either if I was by myself or with Jose. Jose is in the house. His first appearance since October 21st. It's been over a month.
Under a month.
Seen that face. No, over a month. 21st, we're on the 23rd. Over a month since we've seen that face and heard that voice. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of good things to talk about here. Jose, let's just jump right into it, my friend.
I have breaking news.
Oh, tie game?
No tie game. But it looks like it is confirmed that the game will take place next Saturday.
So Inter Miami will play in the Eastern Conference Final next Saturday. If things hold in the New York City FC Philadelphia Union game, that game will be at Chase Stadium. You will have an opportunity, probably Monday, Tuesday, some point early this week, to go buy yourself some tickets.
Inter Miami will take the early window.
We will wait to confirm that. Jose, my friend, Inter Miami, to get to that game, host a second consecutive 4-0 win over a better and more talented opponent that looked anything but a better and more talented opponent. I expected, and I did a podcast a few days ago, 3 days ago or so, by myself, and I actually predicted Inter Miami would lose. So I'm going to say that out front and say I got it wrong. And I predicted that it would be a much tougher test, a stiffer test, and it was anything but that for Inter Miami. They cruised yet again. Messi with his latest masterclass, a goal and 3 assists, playing as the false 9, el falso 9. We can talk about the collective performance. We can talk about all the good things they did today, but any conversation about the match today starts with Luis Suarez being benched. The decision that we have talked about for almost the entire year, for lots of this season, something that a lot of us, I don't know if I'll include you, I think so, but I don't want to speak for you on this one. A lot of us did not see coming. We did not think Javier Mascherano had it in him to sit Luis Suarez, and he does so here Luis Suarez returning from that 1-game suspension, was available, was on the bench, did come into the game as a substitute, but he did not start for the first time all year since he's been available, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken. Jose, what did you make of that decision initially, and obviously now that we know the results? Did it change anything with regards to your initial thoughts on it?
Well, I think to start, this is something that, from the outside, fans and media were on the same page. Inter Miami will be a much better team without Suarez on the field. In particular, because we saw that game against Nashville and how the team performed. And we also acknowledge what Javier Mascherano said after the game in the press conference about how good the team was, without saying they were good without Suarez.
Called it a near perfect game, that 4-0 win against Nashville.
So that was a pretty good sign. Now, I think we all understand here what the situation is with Javier Mascherano in making decisions. As much as we like to think that he can take control of everything that happens on the field, that is not the reality for Inter Miami. There needs to be some sort of agreement between all parts for something like this to happen. And of course, Messi is involved. And he needs to be involved in this situation because you don't want to be we don't want to put the team in a situation where your captain, your superstar, is not comfortable on the field. So I think we all agree on that as well. And that's why it was so surprising to see that Suarez was on the bench. I think almost everybody agreed that it was the right decision. And at the end of the day, the performance on the field backed that up. But let's not take away from the fact that, getting to that point, it must have been, I don't want to say a troublesome week to get up to that point, but there were some steps for Inter Miami and Javier Mascherano to make the decision to eventually Suarez, which at the end took them a step closer to MLS Cup.
So you think the conversation was not an easy one to be had, or an easy one that we didn't get a lot of details from Javier Mascherano. And as a matter of fact, I have the soundbite where he talks about his decision, and I wanted to share it here, but I'm having technological difficulties. The mouse is clicking and it's moving, but it's not doing anything. I can't click on any. I'm clicking everything, but nothing's actually happening. So I don't know if I get out of this for a second to come back in, if it will end the stream. I don't think so. I'll try that in a second here as we get you to talk some more, because it's not letting me do anything here. But I do have the soundbite. But Mascherano pretty much did not say, how he went about the conversation. And he emphasized more than once in the post-game press conference about how the vibe this week in practice was immaculate and it was incredible. It seemed like to me, Jose, my reading into it, seemed like he was overcompensating. Like he was trying to really stress, like, oh, it was a great week, even though we told Suarez he wasn't going to start. Just seemed like he was just overdoing it, like trying to sell it a little too hard, sell that message. See, I can't even hit the comment section. This is crazy. But can't post comments sometimes. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to back out of here and come back in. But Jose, on the field, right? We'll see the lineup before the game. We're taken aback. We're surprised. It finally happened. What we and so many Inter Miami fans thought should happen finally does happen. A big part of this will come down to Nashville's reclamo, Nashville's complaint, right? Because if Nashville doesn't make that initial complaint about Suarez kicking out on your boy, Andy Najar.
So Andy Najar with the assist. There you go.
If it wasn't for that complaint from Nashville, then Suarez doesn't get suspended for that decisive match in that first round series. And then you never see necessarily this 4-3-3 with Messi as the false nine, flanked by Tadeo Allende and Matteo Silvetti. Maybe that never happens. So, a big part of this ingredient, or a big ingredient in this whole formula or recipe, is Nashville's reclamo. But on the field, what does it give Inter Miami? I talked about it a few days ago, but I want to hear your analysis, your thoughts. We've seen it now 2 games. Obviously, in those 2 games, and these are stats, not opinions, son datos, no opiniones. In the last 2 games, without Suarez on the field, Inter Miami has scored 8 goals, and they've given up 0. Now, when he came on, the game was already decided. There were no goals scored for, no goals scored against. But clearly, this team is clicking on different cylinders without Suarez. Why is that, Jose? And if I back out, don't worry, I'll come back.
I'll keep going.
Yes.
Well, I think there's one thing with Suarez at this point. I think for me, if he's able to understand the position that he's in right now and how he can contribute to this team, he's still going to be important because, I really like the fact that, I think it was early or late in the first half where we see him having a conversation with Maxi Falcon.
He was coaching.
Yeah, the silent reporter, I forget his name in Spanish, but he was also, relating the information. Giannone, yes. He was relating the information that, Suarez was very active and talking to his teammates. And then when you see him, get on the field with the game basically decided, and yet he still wanted to score, he still wanted to be aggressive, he still wanted to be a part of it. I think that is the right mindset, and I think there's a lot of value into that. And there was something in particular that Mascherano said about it, and he said he led by example, and I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that is something that at this point Inter Miami needs from Luis Suarez, and that's something that he can actually provide. If you ask Luis Suarez to be that player on the bench that can come on and be effective in 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think he still can do that. Now, the problem is when he's a starter and then he needs to, play a full 90, managing minutes, managing the strength, whether he finishes the game or not. And then again, these are games that might not be only 90 minutes. This might be 120-minute games. So what do you do with Luis Suarez in the 110th minute? You keep him on the field just because it's Luis Suarez. Now Inter Miami has the luxury, quote unquote, of having Luis Suarez available for maybe an extra time, or maybe the last 10 to 15 minutes when you need a goal, and you take that chance because that's what you're supposed to do, and then you trust that Luis Suarez will have one opportunity and will finish. That is what everybody around Inter Miami had a vision of Luis Suarez towards the end of the season. That's what everybody wanted from Mascherano. I don't know when or how he really thought closely about making this move, but that moment in particular, it looks like it's going to be important for Inter Miami this season, and let alone, I think there's one particular situation as well when it comes to Luis Suarez that makes this effective. And this is something that might get overlooked, but the people that follow the team, that know the team, and that know Messi as well, can understand that having Matteo Silvetti available, having that player that Messi likes, that Messi believes in, is very, very important. It would be extremely hard for Mascherano to make this move if Fafa Pico was the only option on the bench to take Luis Suarez's spot. And this is nothing against Fafa, but we have seen throughout the season how Mascherano would rather go so many other ways than look at Fafa. I think tonight is another perfect example. It's about how Fafa is not an option for this team, but Silvetti is, because Silvetti is not only very good, but he's also a player that Messi believes in. And so if he's available, then he can make all this work. If there was any other player taking Luis Suarez's spot, I don't think this happens. And I don't know if you caught some of it or not, or nothing at all, Franco, but I was just sharing my thought on how important it is that Messi trusts and believes in Silvetti.
So there's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack there, Jose. And apologies to everybody, including you, Jose, for making you carry the load there. I don't know what the heck happened here with technology. Like my mouse was literally clicking, but it just wouldn't actually act on the clicking. So I had to turn off my computer. I didn't even have to, couldn't even close the browser. I had to completely shut everything off, start all over. Now it's working. Now we can see some comments. Let's look at some comments before I address what you just mentioned and start to peel back the layers of onion that on the topic you just discussed. Justin-L9X8D, I told y'all you need to bench Suarez. The team is better. Boss Daddy 85 is back. And again, I think it's a he, so I will say he. Suarez donkey kick saved our season. Cada Dadon says, or Cada the Don, which is the Don. Okay. Jose did say Allende will be all and all with his goals. You did say that on your last appearance, that the playoffs would come down to Tadeo Allende either scoring or not scoring. Steve Munoz 1171 says first clean sheet and first consecutive clean sheet in team's playoff history. I mean, it would be second clean sheet, right? Because they got the first clean sheet against. I guess he's making the point of Nashville, maybe. Junior Luipo says, I owe an apology to Mascherano. He got balls to bench Suarez. Tata was scared. Who else? Jake-H2S. If Miami wants to win trophies, they need young legs to play with. Messi. Respectfully, Suarez needs to retire or become an assistant coach. We'll do one more, and it comes from J Vasquez 974. If Suarez cares about the team and is unselfish, he will realize this is the best for the team at this stage of the season. His poor attempt on goal for the chance he was gifted speaks to why he sits. We're going to dive into it in good detail here, but I want to touch on Jose's talking point about Matteo Silvetti. Where's Matteo Silvetti from? And I'm not talking country. I'm talking about city. Where is he from?
Rosario.
Who else is from Rosario? Lionel Messi is from Rosario, as we very well know. There are ties. From my understanding, there are ties. I'm not saying Messi is, his padrino, his godfather, but there are ties there because they're both from the same city. There might be agent ties, or there might be some type of agent connection somewhere there, from my understanding. So he's obviously a player that Messi or Messi's people rate, is my understanding. So like you said, there is trust in him, and he is a player that is deemed a key piece of this project going forward. So like you said.
But aside from that, he performed, though.
He performs. He's a very good player. But I think I'm with you that if he wasn't on this roster, I don't think there's anybody else on this team that el entorno, or the internal group, the people making decisions, because I don't put this just on Mascherano. I don't think it was just as clean as Mascherano being like, all right, I decided Suarez hits bench. I think there's other conversations that get had at higher levels. And of course, now, you're going to get Messi fans or certain people saying that we're being conspiracy theorists, but we cover the team day to day and we see how things work right behind the scenes. And to us, it's clear that it's not just when Mascherano makes a decision at a snap of a finger when he wants to. If that was the case, he would have done this a lot earlier in the year, right? But he didn't. Came to this point, I'm sure there were conversations that were had, and the only player that they would have trust in being able to pull something off like this would be Matteo Silvetti. The only one. Let's listen to Mascherano. Let's listen to him explain his stance on having to bench Luis Suarez. You guys that speak Spanish will understand. I will translate for those of you that don't understand or don't speak Espanol. But for you, those of you that do understand, I want you to really listen and really look at how he tries to sell the idea that the conversation was easy and that Suarez's response was A1.
La verdad que no me gusta mucho puntualizar sobre los jugadores, sobre todo en en una noche como esta, donde creo que al final el que sale fortalecido es el equipo en general, y cuando no hablo del equipo hablo de todos los jugadores, no solamente los 11 que le ha tocado iniciar. Claramente para mí no es una decisión fácil cuando tenés que sacar a un jugador como Luis, con su trayectoria, con la importancia que tiene en el equipo y en el club, pero también tengo que decir que eh, es admirable cómo él tomó la decisión, ¿no? Porque bueno, lo hablamos en la semana, lo entendió, ayudó a sus compañeros, entrenó de la mejor manera, estuvo siempre detrás, y creo que ha mostrado la grandeza que tiene como jugador y como persona, porque sabemos que bueno, muchas veces cuando tenés que tomar estas decisiones puede ser que del otro lado sea difícil entenderlo, y la verdad que ha sido un claro ejemplo de cómo está por la labor, lo que quiere para el equipo, para el grupo, y le ha dado un gran mensaje a sus compañeros sobre todo.
So a lot of flowery praise to Luis Suarez's reaction. And to me, Jose, this public message from Mascherano is a managing, in my opinion, of egos, right? It's managing, it's softening the blow publicly to protect his player from the criticism that could be had and he's had about being benched, right? He didn't come out and say, look, Suarez is limited physically. We have more chances of winning when we have fresher legs out there in Silvetti and Allende flanking Messi. He didn't say that. But he talked about es admirable cómo tomó la decisión. It's admirable how he took the decision. Ha sido un claro ejemplo de cómo de labor. He's a clear example of how dedicated he is to the team's work. He did a lot of things to focus on Suarez's response, which to me, he wasn't really asked about Suarez's response. To me, it's him again managing the ego, because when you get to this level, Jose, players that have played at the highest level, there are egos there. As much as you see in the interviews, they smile and they're friendly and they can appear humble in certain ways. There's still egos behind the closed doors, and all professional athletes, even the ones that haven't played at the highest level, but the ones that played at even higher levels, it's another beast. Is that your interpretation? Is that how you read into it?
Well, I do agree with him. It has to be very tough for Luis Suarez to accept the fact that he's not good enough to start on this team. I think, remember, this is the guy that scored 600 goals, and really play at the highest level. So this is more like the understanding that this could be the end. You're getting closer to the end because, I tweeted about this, and let's see if I can translate this to English the way I really want to say it, because, there has to be a moment where, a player acknowledges on his own that, it's just, you want to keep playing, but it's just, you're not good enough anymore, And if you're Luis Suarez and you see that the team play the way they did tonight and against Nashville, and then you come on and then you struggle to get into the rhythm, and yes, you have the energy, you have the desire, and yet when you get that one chance, it just doesn't feel right. This might be the moment where Luis Suarez can start, to figure what's next for him. I don't see, and I wouldn't consider this to be fair to Luis Suarez for him to play one more season for Inter Miami and be the player that comes on 10 and plays 10 to 15 minutes just for the fact that he wants to be next to Messi one more season. I don't think that would be fair. And I hope, if that is something that, is in the cards for him to happen next year, I hope that somebody within his own circle will go at him and tell him, you know what? I think this is it. I don't want to see you like that. I don't want to see you playing 10, 15 minutes or maybe starting once or twice every 2 to 3 months just because you're Luis Suarez. I don't know how you feel about it, but I really have a high regard for Luis Suarez and the player he was. He is. Well, he still is a player, but for everything that he did, I think he needs to go out. And if they manage to win it all this year, I think there's no better sign. That's it. That should be it.
So I will say this to the point that you're making. Excuse me. There's that saying, right? And it's in English and in Spanish. But I'll do it in Spanish first. Deja el fútbol antes que el fútbol te deje a ti, right? Leave the sport before the sport leaves you. Because as you get older, your brain still processes it all, but your body just doesn't respond in the same way as you did when you were in your prime, when you were in your early 20s, when you were in your teens. Physically, you start to, at some point, deteriorate. And that's clearly happened with Luis Suarez, with the injuries, with age. You see how he runs on the field. He doesn't look like like a normal person running, right? He looks like he's in some pain, some movements. Algunos le cuestan más que otros. It's clear, I think, at this stage, and I think it's been clear this season, that football is starting to leave him, right? He hasn't decided to leave football like Busquets and maybe Jordi Alba are doing. They're beating it to the punch in terms of getting to that point where their level starts to drop big time because physically they just don't have it as much anymore. Whereas I think Suarez is trying to continue on. You could say he's stubborn. You could say he's adamant. You could say he's bullish, headstrong, whatever word you want to use, depending on your viewpoint. Clearly, he's not ready to hang him up yet. He wants to stick around, whatever his reasons are, whether it's, to play alongside Messi, hay que facturar, keep continuing to make money. Maybe he just loves playing, even if he doesn't feel, as great as he once did. But it's clear that football has started to leave him. And he has accomplished a lot in his career. He's been a tremendous player. The goals he scored in his prime, we're going to always remember that. But right now we're in this present, and this present is not a good one for Luis Suarez. I don't think he's going to retire, man. I mean, maybe he makes that decision this winter and he's like, it's time for me to go. I don't want to be a super sub next year. I don't want to come back. But he hasn't had the farewell like Jordi Alba and Busquets did.
No, but I think he already had it. He had it with the national team. That is the most important thing for him. He had his moment with the national team. Was it last year or was it this year? I can't remember. Maybe last year. But I think he had his moment, his goodbye. And if anything, he cares about having that moment with Nacional in Uruguay and not necessarily here. So I'm sure they'll put something together for him, in Uruguay, and have him, a an exhibition game or something like that. I think the moment he left, the highest level, then into Miami was not necessarily the place where he wanted to, have his farewell. I think this will still happen in Uruguay. My thought with him was,
but you mean from a sporting
right?
Aspect,
Yes.
Because obviously he came here not to test himself at the highest level. He came here to be with Messi, to be part of the project in South Florida, right. Be part of the whole project. And while you continue your thought, at EMZX6R, what's up with these usernames? There's just a bunch of letters and numbers. I don't know if these are bots or what's going on here, but this user says, sadly, this is it for the Pistolero. I don't know if he's going to retire, Jose. Look, Inter Miami has been very adamant and very strong about La Familia, and that being not only a mantra, but a way to go about things, for better or for worse. And Jordi Alba got his goodbye with the video montage. Sergio Busquets got it with their misses, their wives, their kids. Luis Suarez, you would have to think, would get it too if he's going to retire.
But you think that would prevent him from retiring, not having a video put together?
But I'm just saying that, to me, that shows that he's, as of right now, not leaning towards retirement. That's
I see what you're saying. He hasn't communicated that officially to the team. Correct. That's what you're saying.
And I don't know if he's going to go into this winter and say, you know what, I'm going to call it. It could happen. It could happen, Jose. I'm not going to put it. I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Right. I've seen it happen in situations where, they win the championship and they just, go out saying, well, this is it. I'm going to retire a champion right now. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, if they win, that definitely
that would be something for us to look out or ask him about.
If we ever get to talk to him,
this is it, right? If we do,
we haven't talked to him in a while. We were supposed to talk to him, I think, before the first Nashville game in the playoffs, and then that schedule changed, and we haven't talked to him since. I'm very curious. Jose, do you believe, Mascherano, in that Luis Suarez took this news very positively, as positively as he's making out to be?
I'm sure he asked questions. I'm sure he asked some questions. He wanted to know exactly what the thought process was when it comes to, making this decision. But, I think if I would be leaning the other way if what he showed on game day would be different. But I thought, he was committed to the team. He was trying to help out from the bench, and then when he came on, I like the attitude that he came on with. There have been players, that are far, far below from Luis Suarez that would not come on a match like that one. Just basically decided, and you're Luis Suarez. Look, I don't like those type of behaviors from players. But if there's somebody that I would take from, it would be Luis Suarez, because I think he earned the right to say, hey, listen, no, that's disrespectful. You're not going to put me in.
Come on, Jose,
when it's 4-0, I'm Luis Suarez. If you don't want to play me, you better play me in a different situation. I don't like them. I don't like those type of situations, but I can understand Luis Suarez having that conversation, and he didn't. He made the decision to come on and fight for every ball like if the game was scoreless. I put a lot of value into that.
I'm not going to say this is what happened, but on Saturday at the last availability before the team flew out to Cincinnati, Ohio for this Eastern Conference semifinal, it was a warm morning. It was a warm Saturday morning, high 70s, low 80s. And every Inter Miami player, aside from the goalkeepers and aside from Luis Suarez, was either in sleeve shirts, de manga, or sleeveless tops, sin manga. For some reason, Luis Suarez decided to wear long sleeves. The only one. And you noticed that his right hand, there was some type of, I don't know if it was a slit or a brace or how you want to categorize it as, but he definitely had something on a few fingers on his right hand. Could he have punched the wall in anger? Could he have punched the wall in anger? I mean, it could have happened, right? We know he's a temperamental guy. Could it have happened? Or did he just randomly fall on the week of this benching and he just had to wear this slit? And you couldn't tell today because they were wearing long sleeves because it was chilly in Ohio. But yesterday we couldn't tell either. All we saw was and you took footage of it. I took footage of it. It's on Twitter. He definitely had something black on a few of his fingers. Again, I think it was a slit, like a finger slit to keep him in place. But we couldn't tell because he had long sleeves on yesterday. So take that for what it's worth.
That's going to be hard to prove.
Let's see. Is he going to wear long sleeves again this week in the Florida sun again?
We'll see. But, even if he did have that reaction, that's fair. That's fair. You can be frustrated. As long as you don't hit anybody else, that's fair. That's fair. That tells me you still have the fire.
You still care. You still care.
So, I'm okay with that. I don't see that as a big deal. At the end of the day, what really matters to me is what he shows on the field. And I think he showed things that were good. That were positive for the team tonight. And, at the end of the day, for me, it's about how he can help this team out if he's not on the field. What else can he do? And I think he showed some stuff tonight. So
I think he showed hunger for goal, right? Still that desire to score. Like he still wants to prove something, even though he has nothing to prove at this stage in his accomplished career. But Jose, compared to the rest of the players on Inter Miami, he was just not anywhere. And it was a short substitute cameo. The game's already decided, but he had a couple of plays, Jose. And the one play he has where he can take a good shot on frame, at least get it on target, he scuffs
it wasn't good.
Well wide. Good. He looked a step or two below everybody else in terms of rendimiento, performance
Right.
levels. Maybe,
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
maybe
That's
he's
why.
not meant to be a super sub. Maybe that's a takeaway you could have.
Right, but that's why I'm telling you. I mean, looking forward to 2026. I mean, do you really see a role for Luis Suarez? Would you take Silvetti out of the lineup with the potential that he has, not only for the team in 2026, but for the possibility of selling him later on? Would you
I don't
take
think
him off the starting lineup to bring Suarez in? I don't know. I mean,
I don't think you take him out. But next year there's a World Cup, and I know MLS is stopping during the World Cup, but it's going to be another busy year. There's a role for him there. It's a matter of if he wants that role or not. But let's dive tactically into, because I don't know if you touched the surface or got into it in a little more meat and potatoes. That will get us into this game in a little more detail. We've talked a lot about Suarez, and we'll continue to do so here. But when he's not on the field, and you have Messi as the false nine, as Inter Miami has had for much of the last two games, what does that do for Inter Miami? What has that done for Inter Miami? I know we were in our WhatsApp group and you were, I would say, in rare form because, and I agree with you, we were amazed at how Inter Miami was playing and how well they were playing collectively. Because normally, we've said it a lot of times, it's usually just Messi magic. And today he was definitely involved. I think he has a hand in all 4 goals. But it wasn't just him. Right? Yeah. It wasn't just him. Tadeo Allende scores 2 good goals clinically. Mateo Silvetti gets a goal and an assist. Baltasar Rodriguez gets involved. Rodrigo de Paul had one of his better games. Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, they were at their level. I don't think anyone you could say had a bad game. Rocco Rios Novo, he collected routine balls. He wasn't overly tested. Didn't have to make any flying saves. Noah Allen maybe was the one starter that struggled a little bit. Maxi Falcon was very good. Chelo had one bad moment in the first half where he was a little too casual in terms of defending a player out wide. But other than that, you didn't really feel the drop off from Ian Frey to Chelo again. And Ian Frey is dealing with an injury. He did not train on Saturday. He did travel with the group, wasn't on the match day roster today. I doubt he makes it for next week, but it's early. We'll see what they say throughout the week. But what did this do, Jose? What did this Suarez absence, Silvetti introduction, change to the 4-3-3? What has this done for Inter Miami?
Well, the team is a lot more dynamic, to start. We're going to start with the obvious, the attacking part of not having Suarez, and how is that going to help you? Well, I think the most important thing is that your wingers now can be a lot more aggressive, and they have to be a lot more aggressive because, those were the situations in which you can have Messi as the finisher and you can have Messi as the 10. And that creates a lot of trouble for your opponent because you don't know where exactly to defend Messi. Because if you push for him through the middle, then he only needs 1 second to put it through and find Tadeo on the right or Silvetti on the left. And then again, here's this little guy, Baltasar Rodriguez, who roams around, every little space, then he goes in there and creates trouble. So Inter Miami is so dynamic at the top with Suarez that they can be so unpredictable, for everybody else. And you don't know exactly where they're going to hurt you. And you're not in a situation like they have been throughout the entire year where Messi is going to look for Suarez or he's going to open up to the right side for Tadeo Allende. But if Suarez is there, 80% of the time, Messi will indeed go to Suarez because Suarez knows how Messi is going to get the ball back and where he wants the ball back. Now, it's a little bit more unpredictable. And at the same time, Baltasar and Silvetti, they are so young and so, driven by the moment that sometimes they just decide to go on their own and they don't have to look back to Messi. Actually, for me, when they go on their own and they forget about, giving the ball back to Messi, that's when they can hurt a lot. And I think they did it at times. Even if they didn't finish the play on a shot on goal, but that created a different thought process for the opponent defensively. So many things, Franco. So many things. It was great. I think this is one of the games that I would enjoy watching back. Knowing exactly what happened and what they wanted to do, I think this is a beauty to go back and look at.
It was, again, what Mascherano called an almost a perfect game. And like you said, everyone was getting involved. Baltasar Rodriguez had a shot in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, that is saved. Tadeo Allende, again, scores a brace. Very clinical efforts on both of his finishes. Messi gets his goal. Silvetti gets his goal. I mean, you clearly see that collectively there's been more involvement from all the pieces. Whereas when you see Messi and Suarez at the top of the formation in the 4-4-2, it's usually a lot of them combining to one another. Usually that's what you see. Messi gets the ball, looks for Suarez, Suarez looks for Messi, so on and so forth. And a lot of times it hasn't worked out because when Messi tries to find Suarez with the final pass, Suarez just can't get to it. It's overhit by a little bit, or Suarez just not fast enough to get to it. He's too slow, too heavy, too clunky at this stage in his career. And that at certain points has hurt Inter Miami in the attack. Ha resentido el ataque in different moments this year. I think the last great moment that we saw from Suarez is the goal against the
Palmeiras
at the Club World Cup, where on his own, he took the ball, got a couple of fortunate bounces along the way, but he sheerly, with just con su propia voluntad and potencia and the power he still has, smashed the shot into the back of the net. I think that's the last real wow moment from Suarez this year. He's had some good crosses to Messi. He's had some good feeds. You can still see that he can pass well and he's got the brains for the game. But the physical side, like we said earlier, is leaving him. With Silvetti, with Baltasar behind, with Tadeo Allende on the wings, you have more pace. You have more speed. You said it yourself. They're more dynamic. They're more direct. It's not a team that necessarily wants to play that more possession-based style. They've been more direct, looking to hit in transitions. Today, they were lethal in terms of their counterattacks. I mean, one goal comes off of a throw-in. Inter Miami throw-in, and then from right to left, the ball moves quickly, and it ends in a goal. It's a team that looked much more comfortable attacking in that way. Whereas when you have the 4-4-2 with Suarez and Messi, and you try to counter in transition, the only one that's really been stretching the back line consistently has been Tadeo Allende this season from the right wing spot. Baltasar Rodriguez was hit and miss because he was dealing with injuries throughout a lot of the year, but he did give you that element. I think against New York City FC in the regular season, there's a goal he scores where he gets in behind and Messi finds him. Jose, I'm going to take you back to, I think January is when we first spoke to players, and it was the start of preseason. And the first week or the second week, I don't know if it was you or me, but one of us asked Fafa about how Mascherano wanted to play, because we didn't know, right? We didn't really know what Mascherano wanted to do. And one of the things that stuck with me was Fafa saying that he wanted his wingers to get in behind, to help stretch the back line. And we haven't seen that for much of this year, in part because Telasco Segovia has been one of those wingers, and he's not that type of player. He's more a ball-to-feet player, more combination player, a player that likes to, he's like a pseudo in between a winger and a central midfielder. Not quite a central midfielder, but not quite a winger, something in the middle. So they haven't had that ability to stretch a back line, aside from Tadeo Allende, who, in terms of his finishing, has been very hit or miss. Now they have different weapons. Now they have, I think this is the vision that Mascherano had for his style of play, right? Wingers that can get in behind, and then you have a striker or a 10 that can finish things from a central channel. We know Mascherano's defensive. We know that. So it shouldn't be surprising if his preferred way is a more counterattacking way. It's not necessarily possession-based type of style. Let's listen to Mascherano. We've talked for a good bit. Let's listen to Mascherano on the tactics, because when I asked him about that in the post-game press conference, he went in some good detail as to what they were trying to do from the start of the game.
Y después sí, la idea era un poco lo que comenté, ¿no? Cincinnati en su manera de defender es un equipo que no persigue, pero empareja mucho. Prácticamente hace un 1 contra 1 en todo el campo, entonces lo que queríamos era traer mucho para dejar espacio a nuestros dos picadores, que eran Tadeo y Toto, y también entender que cuando estábamos replegados en ese 4-5-1 que nos replegábamos, a la que podíamos robar, encontrar a Leo, poder salir con dos jugadores por fuera con rapidez atacando el espacio. Bueno, hoy ha salido y no quiero dejar de decir que uno puede tener como entrenador las mejores ideas del mundo, pero los que las llevan a cabo son los jugadores. Y por eso digamos, quiero repetirlo, ¿no? El mérito ha sido de los jugadores en cómo han entendido el partido desde el primer minuto y la personalidad con la que han jugado, porque no era fácil jugar acá y hoy todo el mundo ha querido la pelota, nadie se ha escondido, todo el mundo se ha mostrado y hemos sido un equipo muy, pero muy serio.
Posted a translated paraphrase very quickly about the key highlights there. He says los picadores, which would mean the guys who do quick bursts into what is the term for that? Picad, sprint, right? A quick sprint. The guys who sprint in behind the defense. And he said Tadeo and Toto. Toto is also Matteo Silvetti's nickname for anybody who might be confused, because there's
two Totos.
Toto Aviles, right? We have two Totos on Inter Miami right now. But los picadores, right? The guys who sprint in behind. We wanted to use speed because FC Cincinnati is not a team that follows. It's a team that likes to play, I think he said man-to-man defensively, right? Like one-on-one. They don't cover necessarily space. They cover the man, and they're not very good. It's my interpretation of what he said in terms of retreating and getting into shape. In the beginning of this game, Jose, Inter Miami was probably not the better team in the first 15 minutes. Cincinnati had possession. Cincinnati was dictating the tempo, but Inter Miami's game plan was to pick and choose its spots on the counter, and eventually, after Messi's bouncing headed finish off of a nice combination play with Silvetti, after a very good ball recovery, great anticipation from Jordi Alba to pick off a pass around midfield. After that, it was all Inter Miami from that point forward. Cincinnati, I mean, I talked about Evander, his combination with Brenner, the attacking quartet that Cincinnati could have. And Jose, Evander, we barely saw him today.
Right.
You know, you didn't feel his impact. He had one chance early on that he probably should have done better on, and he somehow skied into Rosie. But Jose, the defensive job done today, the midfield line, I mean, every piece of the team played very well, and this is for the second consecutive game. Can anybody in MLS stop this version of Inter Miami?
Well, Vancouver is very good. But you know, I would say that the most challenging part for opponents at this point is that you don't have enough of a sample size as to know exactly what the tendencies are for this starting lineup, because you basically have 2 games and there were elimination games, so it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how to hurt them. But they're very dynamic, and one of the most important things for me is that defensively as well, they are so much better. They are so much better. I think that those are one of the things why Cincinnati was not able to score on Inter Miami. It's because Baltasar is a lot more active. He might not be as good recovering the ball, but he's there. You feel him, right?
He's like a little, I don't know what the term would be, like the best term for him. Honestly, Jose, I want to quickly add to that.
By the way,
what's
30 seconds away though from hosting the conference final? Just so you know.
Well, not us, but Inter Miami.
Inter Miami.
But Jose, I want your honest assessment and opinion. I don't think I've really asked you of Baltasar Rodriguez, like from our interactions with him. How would you describe Baltasar Rodriguez?
He's a quiet guy, but
during interviews.
He's quiet but sneaky. Yeah, I think that relates to the type of player that he is.
So
yes,
that's exactly where I was going with that, because that's also my early read on him and the limited interactions we've had with him. In front of the cameras, when he's doing the interviews, he is, quiet, reserved, a man of few words.
Yeah.
But on the field, you see he's got some spunk. He's got a little bit of that chippiness to him. And you see him get involved with opponents in different games and in different moments. I think he's got some personality to him. It's about harnessing it, of course, but I think in different moments, we've seen that spunk come out. And I think it's part of his game. Look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to share an anecdote. So at Chase Stadium, on the third level is where the press box is. That's where we sit, Jose and I, and many other people that covered the team. There is 2 bathrooms right next to the press box.
It's over, by the way.
So it's official?
It's official.
Right,
yep.
Jay Vasquez 74. Yep, home game next week. So Inter Miami will host New York City FC on Saturday. Stay tuned to Inter Miami's social channels for information on tickets. I imagine they will go on sale either tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. They got to get those butts in the seats. An upset in the playoffs, as Mega says, adios Philadelphia.
Incredible.
Jake H2S says we can host the conference final and the final fire emoji.
Just prove that the supporter shield means absolutely nothing. One more time.
So back to my anecdote, Jose, very quick, my bathroom anecdote. It was halftime if I don't remember what game. And I needed to go take a leak. So I go to the bathroom. And normally, Jose, the line for the bathroom is pretty long because there's only two toilets, one on each side, left and right. And while I'm, doing my business in there, I hear a boom, 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 boom on the door. And then I hear like a shout, like almost like a mocking or like a, like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to find the term in English. En español sería con ganas de fastidiar, de joder, así, bromista. Almost cachaciento, which would be like almost in a mocking way it was done. And when I come out of the bathroom, and I wash my hands, do my thing, I come out, Baltasar Rodriguez, Toto Aviles, and I can't remember the third player. I think Velasco Segovia. We're all there, and they were waiting in line to go to the bathroom. More so, it looked like Baltasar Rodriguez. So I can't say with 100% certainty that it was Baltasar Rodriguez, but I would pretty much suspect it to be Baltasar Rodriguez. I don't see Velasco Segovia having that type of personality to do something like that. I think, again, this is just my supposition. I think Baltasar Rodriguez has that type of demeanor on the field, and I think it helps Inter Miami in a big way. I think they need someone who can maybe get a little down in the dirt, who can ruffle some feathers from the opposition, who's, a pain in the ass to play against. Because, again, like you said, maybe he's not at his best in terms of ball recovery, but he might be a pain in the ass to have to go up against because he's tireless. He tries to chase you down. He'll probably, nick at your heels, do the little things to try to ruffle your feathers. 100%. Those little details, those little things that you don't see on the stat sheet, I think they've definitely helped Inter Miami. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think, I think he's one player that, he was out for so long. He was out for so long without being a factor that, I think at the end of the day, that was obviously not beneficial for him, but it was beneficial for Inter Miami because of how impactful he has been in the last few games. You kind of have to scout him out based on what he did in Argentina to find an idea of what he can do for Inter Miami. And that's never going to be the same because it's a different coach, different league, so many different things. And now, we see him also not only as a player that can be effective through the wing, but as well, in the middle of the field. I think he's one guy that really understands what Mascherano wants to do with this team. And that's very important. I think that's one of the reasons why Inter Miami will probably try to buy him from Rosario. Rosario Central, is it? I can't remember.
A report that came out in recent days that said that while they haven't come to terms on a number, that they fully expect that Baltasar Rodriguez's buy option will be triggered. That be back.
I think they need him moving forward. I think this team can really help out Messi by having those type of players around him. Yes, of course they do need another number 9. It wouldn't make sense to keep Allen Obando. It wouldn't make sense to keep Luis Suarez, really. But they need that player, that presence inside the box. But Baltasar, I don't know what the situation with Tadeo is going to be, because his players have been very good. He has scored a lot of goals, so he might be in a situation where he can demand a little bit more coming into next year. So there's so many moving parts, but I think if you keep Baltasar, if you keep Silvetti, you're really helping Messi a lot.
Racing Club is the
Racing. Yes.
I said this on the pod a few days ago. I was talking about the Nashville decisive game. The team that we saw in that game and the team now that we've seen in this game, to your point, I think is a glimpse into what we will see for the next part of the Messi project here in South Florida. I think it's going to be Messi, rodeado, surrounded by fresher legs, younger legs, players that can do a lot of the dirty work, the running, the chasing balls down, the harassing opponents, all that stuff that you will need as Messi gets closer to 40. And as he gets closer to 40, as much of a gifted freak that he is, at some point, physically, he's going to start to slow down, and he will need those legs around him if he doesn't already, which we're starting to see that maybe he does. Jose, I asked you the question. I think you mentioned Vancouver, but is there any team in MLS, I'm going to ask you again, that can slow down this version of Inter Miami? Or is this version of Inter Miami practically unbeatable? Practically, I say practically, because in a one-off game, anything can happen. A bad bounce, a bad miss, an unlucky refereeing call, etc.
I don't see New York City stopping Inter Miami. I don't see it. I watched New York City a couple of times this year, and with Alonso Martinez, they can be a tough team in the counterattack. But the reason why I gave them a chance against Philly is because Philly, they don't have any firepower. They're just a solid team, but they didn't have any superstars, any difference makers. And New York City, I think it's a similar situation. And
Alonso Martinez blew out his knee, right?
Yes, he got hurt, so He's not going to be available for a year or something like that. So I can see them winning the East, and then the West. Vancouver is a very good team, and
Tremendo. I don't want to get a step ahead because Inter Miami's got next game to play, and let's focus on that game, even with our coverage before. But that would be a hell of a final. The rematch of the CONCACAF Champions Cup series that we saw earlier this year, where Inter Miami got played off the field over 2 legs by a much better Vancouver team.
Right. They still have to win over San Diego or Minnesota,
but it would be a hell of a rematch.
Yeah, it would be good. Although it would be great also to have San Diego in South Florida. Well, CJ Dos Santos would be. Oh no, CJ's hurt. Is he hurt?
Negri.
Franco Negri, Christopher McVeigh.
No, but that's to me that pales in comparison to the major storyline that is the rematch of where Inter Miami was at that stage in the year to where they are now.
That wouldn't be the story of that game. The story of that game would be Mueller against Messi, and the history between Mueller and Messi, right? I mean, Messi hasn't won against Mueller or anything. So that would be something. But again, I don't think New York City can stop Inter Miami, and they shouldn't really at home. No way. No way.
I'm with you. I think Inter Miami is making the MLS Cup final. I mean, it's my early prediction.
I think if you're an Inter Miami fan, this is the game that you have been waiting for. This is the game that you have been waiting for. Because, yes, you played a final in Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup, 2 finals in Leagues Cup, by the way. Now, they were both road games. This is it. This is the game that you want to be a part of. This is not the game that you want to miss. Because you're playing for a title, which, winning the East, in my opinion, I don't know if you share this opinion. Winning the East is a lot more meaningful than winning Leagues Cup, and it is more meaningful than winning the Supporter Shield. So this is a title that you want to be a part of. And as an added bonus, you not only would get to see if they end up winning, your team lifting a meaningful trophy, but you be a part of, them getting to the final. So, again, if you're an Inter Miami fan, this is not the game that you want to miss, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree.
R Bay 279 says Miami going all the way. I mean, Jose, I predicted that they would be eliminated tonight a couple of days ago, but I predicted that with a thought in mind that Luis Suarez would continue to start. I didn't think that would be changed. It's funny too. Inter Miami, it loves the shithousery. Like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours before kickoff today, they posted a graphic on Twitter saying almost time or something like that, and the player that was used for that was Luis Suarez.
Yeah, but people don't know. The social media people had no idea.
No. Yes.
They had no idea.
No, that's bullshit.
They had no idea, man.
Jose,
they had no idea.
Jose, I am convinced that they know. I'm not saying that the people that whose day-to-day job it is to know. I'm convinced that up above, it's like, hey, do this, and we're going to do it like this, and this is how we're going to do things. Come on, Jose. Come on. No seas ingenuo. No seas ingenuo, Jose.
I don't buy it. That's not that big a deal. Convinced. Mascherano telling us that he wouldn't disrespect Suarez's career, that was it. But a social media post, so you think, anybody would think Cincinnati will be looking at the social media posts?
Yes. The things that add.
No way.
Before the Nashville game, Mascherano came out and put green pennies on the field in a 4-4-2 formation.
That's different. That's different. That's not a social media post. People can actually say something about Mascherano doing something. You can see him doing something on the field. But with a social media post, as much as you want to think that way, you have no proof of it. Now, if you're telling somebody else from Cincinnati that you saw Mascherano putting the pennies and you saw him, you know exactly what he was doing. But the social media post, come on.
Jose,
I don't buy it.
Jose, they, in my opinion, they play all the little mind games. All the little mind games. All of them. Every little one.
They do, but not with that in particular.
They want to win every little mind game they can. If they can... I mean, look, bro, they've come from Argentina. They come from a football country where you've pretty much seen everything. So all these little things, I'm convinced that is all part of their.
Come on, better. The big disconnect that there is. But I'm not.
Mega agrees with me.
I'm not going to go any further.
Mega says 100% agree with Franco on that. Octavio Santibáñez 2526. Thank God Suarez wasn't in the starting lineup. Praying emoji. Sonic Squirrel says Matt Freese is NYCFC's best player, which is their goalkeeper. Alpha VA says not an easy game against NYCFC. Just remember the year Real Salt Lake and Portland won the MLS Cup.
No, it won't be easy. It can't be easy. It's a final.
Why not?
So everybody. No, I mean tonight. If you look at the score, then you'll think, oh, it was so easy, but it wasn't really. There were stretches in the game where
No,
you
the
didn't
first
know
15 minutes. That was it.
the first 15 minutes, but then at some point there was still just one goal. You were just a bad call from the referee. A mistake out of the back. You remember that play with Baltasar heading the ball back, and
Yes.
then Denki could have won that ball. If well, it was more about Denki having a horrible night. But if he's able to position himself well, there's no way Noah Allen wins that ball. But he was just faster. But I mean, you were at times not 100% sure. Of course, second half it was completely different. But I wouldn't say it was easy.
I would say for professional sports, it was relatively easy, Jose. Like I tweeted this. This wasn't a playoff game, Jose. This was an exhibition, a friendly, a walk in the park, a Sunday stroll. Jose, at the end of the game, Messi didn't even look like he broke a sweat. Messi was just shaking hands. Messi looked, his hair was perfectly in place. I mean, aquí nos exigieron demasiado, Jose. Let's come on, man. The last two games, and this is the postseason. This is where supposed to be the upper echelon teams. And Inter Miami with this new system, with this new personnel.
No, but it's not easy to put out that performance. Inter Miami's not going to repeat that performance against New York City.
I don't know about that.
It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. They just can't play the same way every single game.
Maybe we will see another 4-0. But I could see Inter Miami cruising to the finish line. I could see that. I could see them not having a
well, I can see everything. I can see also New York City, scoring 5 goals. I can see a lot of stuff.
You think that New York City... Okay, Jose, give me your early prediction. Inter Miami to MLS Cup or New York City FC?
Yeah, I think Inter Miami to MLS Cup, but I don't think it's going to be easy. That's like I said, I mean, you want to go to this game because there's really no guarantee that you're going to make it to MLS Cup, but you want to be there for this game. I don't think it's going to be that easy. It's a final. Everybody's going to fight for a title.
It's a conference final. Essentially, it's a semifinal. The semifinal.
Yes, but there are teams, there are people that like to win.
They don't have their star striker. Like, will NYCFC be up for the moment and have the will and the desire and the fight? Probably.
How many times have you expected the best from Inter Miami and then something happens and they give you the worst? That has happened several times with this team.
Actually, funny enough, I said that after here at home after the game went final. I was like, "Fútbol es de alto y bajos, highs and lows." And right now, Inter Miami is on a high. They could easily be on a low next weekend if they don't take care of business against New York City FC. So I agree. What is it then? So I agree with that, but I don't see NYCFC being the team that esté bajo. I just don't see it. That I can't see it. I thought Cincinnati had the ability, the talent to be that type of team that could really hurt Inter Miami. I don't see NYCFC being that type of team.
Right.
With their starting striker, their number 9, out due to a knee injury, with the game being at Chase Stadium, with the confidence that we're seeing from Inter Miami, with the pretty much certeza, with the knowledge that Luis Suarez is probably not starting again next weekend. I mean, with all those things, I'm sorry, man. I just don't see it. And
until Maxi Falcón gets red carded in the 3rd minute.
Puede pasar. We'll start to wrap up here because we've talked a good bit here about the game and about Suarez. Messi as a false 9 quickly, Jose. I mean, he doesn't have to generate as much, right? He doesn't have to drop so deep to find the ball. There's other people that can get either him the ball or other players the ball in positions to create. And you see that, like you said, with Silvetti. You've seen it, not so much with Allende. Allende is not so much un jugador que genera, but Baltasar Rodriguez and Jordi Alba when he gets involved. You have another player or another option for how to generate play. And that frees Messi up to, drop back and pick and choose his spots, be the finisher in the box if he has to be the finisher in the box. That outside the foot pass that he hit to Allende, I think on Allende's 2nd goal, I mean, it's superb, man. It's superb. He literally just can pick and choose his spots. It frees him up to not have to do so much. He still does his thing, but he's much more efficient, right? You don't see him like you see him at times in the 4-4-2 where he drops deep to get the ball and has to try to dribble by 5 guys and he gets stripped of the ball and then there's attack coming the other way. It's a lot more simple for Messi. And it's been 2 games, but again, these are the games in the playoffs. They're supposed to be at a higher level with tougher opposition. And right now, Inter Miami's passing with flying colors. Very quickly, Mascherano. I know he's not the type of person to pat himself on the back. We've seen other coaches at Inter Miami who were more in line with that way of thinking. Phil Neville. But Javier Mascherano always points the finger at the players when they do well. Occasionally, he'll point the finger at himself when they do poorly. Normally, he doesn't point it at the players or tries not to. He tries to maneuver through our questions. Today, I told him, I was like, I asked him, or I mentioned in my question, I know you're not the type of person that will, say that you are a big part of the reason. You won't give yourself merit or credit, at least publicly. But how big was the Mascherano masterclass today? Not only because of the Suarez benching, but just the overall game plan. Because again, I don't think there was really any rough performances from the starters. And from Cincinnati, Evander didn't look like Evander. Brenner was very limited. Denke, rough night. I mean, Inter Miami, again, we've talked about the attack, the midfield, the wingers, but Inter Miami in general had its way with FC Cincinnati. On the road at FC Cincinnati.
Which, by the way, playing on the road for this team has been a struggle, throughout the year. Look, I think Mascherano deserves a lot of credit. I think he's right, by, acknowledging his players as well. Because, they're still young, Silvetti and Baltazar and, Tadeo had, he scored a lot, but he had 20 goals, by the way. He scored a lot, but at the same time, he was a little bit, inconsistent. Tadeo had 20 goals. Yeah, Tadeo. So, I think players do deserve a lot of credit. I think Noah also, even though he didn't have his best game tonight, I think in the playoffs he has been very, very much reliable. Maxi, good signing. I think overall, and maybe, by the way, he found a way to keep Jordi Alba to play as a left back for the most part of the game. So you just have to put Baltazar and Silvetti in front of him, and then he doesn't have a lot of room to move forward, and he can stay back a little bit. That's also a positive of this setup.
That helps the defense, right? That
Absolutely
helps them have another body, less space to give up so that you don't get hit in transition, so that gives up more chance. I mean, Rocco Rios Novo wasn't overly tested again tonight, Jose, and that's a testament to the defensive performance that Inter Miami put forth.
Who's very happy?
Piece of it.
Who's very happy about Jordi Alba staying back a little bit? Noah Allen. He's very excited about that.
He's got less fires to put out.
Yeah.
I think you said this. I don't know if you said it in the WhatsApp group. Mascherano encontró el equipo.
Yeah, he did.
He has found the best version of this team, and he found it at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have found it earlier, but again, like you said at the beginning of the show, there's probably other dynamics behind the scenes at play. It's not just as simple as Mascherano just being like, oh, I'm so stubborn that Suarez has to start game in and game out, even though he's not performing. But he also he's un chaleco. He's like a bulletproof vest. He takes all the shots from the media. He answers all the questions. He's still very inexperienced overall. But there's a lot of good things to like about him as a head coach in this first season. And I don't know the details like you. I don't know. I mean, I imagine you don't know the details of how the decision was made, but I'm sure it wasn't, some thought that just popped into his head. I'm sure he's thought during other stretches of the year, we need to take Suarez out. But Suarez is a big part of the project, at least as of today. And he was never taken out of the starting lineup until now. And now Inter Miami is looking like the best version of itself and a good candidate to make the MLS Cup final. which could be at Chase Stadium in South Florida. So we're not done yet here on Miami Total Football Radio in 2025. We will have at least one more game to cover. This show was thrown together last minute. Jose is back after a month. I don't know what Jose's schedule is like this week. Jose is a very busy guy.
I really don't know my own schedule at this point. I should, but I don't.
We will have a pod this week before the game against New York City FC to preview that one in a little more detail, and of course to dissect whatever news pops up throughout the coming days. See if Ian Frey, if there's any update on his recovery. See what else comes of the next few days. Inter Miami is never boring. Never boring. Jose, any final thoughts before we close out the show? We've got a lot of people tuning in here. Now people are basking in the glory here on this fine Sunday evening.
No, not really. Just I think this is the moment for Inter Miami fans to enjoy. I think last year this was almost thought of as a given that Inter Miami will make it this far, and then the team was out in the first round. So it was a good performance. Then you get the add-on of playing a home final. So it should be pretty cool. I think
you imagine it will be sold out.
I would imagine. I hope it would be sold out.
There's going to be enough buzz. There's enough buzz behind
if they can sell out that game, that's serious trouble. But there was another final that I forgot of before that I mentioned, the Open Cup final.
Open Cup final. Yeah, someone in the comment section mentioned it, but I didn't get
against
to that.
Houston Dynamo. Yeah, Open Cup. So this is your second shot for the people that went to the Open Cup final. It's another shot at celebrating a trophy. I wonder what the celebration would be like in South Florida.
Oh, you're talking about the MLS Cup. I don't count the Eastern Conference Cup final as a final.
No, this is a final. It's the Eastern Conference final.
I don't count that as a final.
When you're into Miami, you count this as a final. If you're LA Galaxy or some of the other teams that are used to winning, then fine. But if you don't have one, you have to count this as an Eastern Conference final and a meaningful
semifinal. In the grand picture, it's a semifinal. I know they do give out trophies. They do the very American style. They give out trophies if you win the Eastern Conference final. But it means jack shit to the MLS Cup final. It means nothing. It's another supporter shield.
It would be the double or nothing type of thing then.
Correct. Mega says, hasta mi abuela sabía que la clave es banquear a Suarez, Mascherano still a green coach, which the Spanish part means even his grandma knew that the key was to bench Suarez. But again, I don't think it was his decision, man, for much of the year. And I don't know if it was his decision outright today. I think there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. And I know Pedri Potter over here is he's not a fan of our speculation, but that's part of the conversation. It's part of the daily dialogue of covering a team. Pedri Potter says, go on, speculate, General Franco, even though you don't know the details. Apparently, that's the best thing you do. All right. Tickets are looking expensive, says Cada the Dawn. We'll see what they're worth. I think Inter Miami will have as close to a full house as possible because it's easy now. It's easy. Okay, they're in the semifinal. They're a game away from MLS Cup. There will be buzz. There will be hype. It is Thanksgiving weekend. So some people might be going out of town. But there should still be enough buzz generated that they get a very good turnout on Saturday. You said afternoon, right?
No. Yeah, it's not going to be afternoon. They're going to get the early window, but not afternoon. Should be like it's 7 p.m. start, something like that.
Oh, so the usual.
Yeah, the usual.
Oh. Okay, when you
maybe
said
a little bit earlier, depending on what happens with the West Coast. I'm checking, but tickets, I don't think they're on sale already. Maybe for season ticket holders, an early link, but I don't think they are available just yet.
All right. Well, we will leave it there, Jose. Thank you for carrying a load of the show earlier while I had technical difficulties. A big night for Inter Miami, but the job's not done. There's still 2 more matches, ideally, that they would like to win to close out the year. But things are looking awfully good right now. Obviously, you don't want to get too high when there's good moments, just like you don't want to get too low when there's bad moments. Inter Miami and Mascherano need to manage the emotions this week, try to stay even keel. But from the outside, if you're an Inter Miami fan, you have every reason to feel good and believe that this team is now, with this setup and this structure, capable of winning it all.
This should be a good week for Inter Miami fans. Thanksgiving. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people as well, from out of town that are going to be here. So
maybe they want to
get
catch
your hands on those tickets as quickly as possible, because that system where if there's a high demand for tickets or prices are going to go higher.
They start to go up, yeah.
So if you're an Inter Miami fan, go ahead. You deserve to be in the stadium. I mean, nothing against people coming from out of town and watching the game and watching Messi and everything, but then again, the ones that were there from day one gotta be there if you can.
Jose is anti-tourists.
No, not at all.
Anti-turismo.
Not at all.
All right, we will leave it there. Thank you all for tuning in on short notice. Thank you to Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco, for coming back to his casa after a month back. Whoa, doing Jose things. I am Franco Panizo. Give us a like, a subscribe, a review. Hit the bell for all the notifications on YouTube. We upload all the interviews and all the good stuff. This might be the first time you're watching this or listening to this because it's playoff time. People start to pop in when it's playoff time that maybe don't follow during the regular season. Things are looking good for Inter Miami. We'll be back in a few days. I don't know if Jose will be back with me, but if I have to do it alone, I'll do it alone. We'll be back in a few days to properly preview the game against New York City FC and continue to talk about all things Inter Miami. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. For Jose Armando, I'm Franco Panizo. You have been watching or listening to Miami Total Football Radio. We'll talk to you guys very soon.